Hey there, my friends. It's Bill MacDonald, the writing doctor. I want to talk to you today about how to get 30 to 32 points in a dual language classroom as I model for you in 3 or 4 parts: the essay, editing, revising, the answer evidence, and then the part A, part B, the text entry for revision where you change the order, and the combining sentences. Those are all sort of like open-ended or uh, multiple choice, but many of you are telling me that you're in a dual language classroom and you're having to teach English and Spanish, or you're in the higher grades and you're having recent immigrants who are dominant in Spanish and are not able to keep up with whatever you're sharing. So I'm going to show you a dual language approach to teaching different parts of reading and writing to help you to get quite a few points. It'd be about 30 to 33 points if you apply all of these different strategies. Now, there's no one way to teach things. There's just people's opinions, and I want to share that what I'm about to show you in both English and Spanish for part one here is the composition, the essay, composición, ensayo. So what I'll do as I'm explaining the essay and the process of it and how the pieces all work together, I'm going to explain it, each part, first in English, then I'll explain that part or that step in Spanish to the best of my ability so that you can use, in this one, a hand to learn how to get the 5 points. Vamos a usar la mano para recibir 5 puntos de las dos lecturas, 5 points from 2 different readers, or the 2 algorithm, what they were calling now hybrid scoring. So I'm very excited about that. They did an unusual job. It was amazing for those people who had to grade a lot of essays. Met one at my past training. She said she had to grade 1,200 in 1 week. I was just trying to think, that's, over 150 a day. I think I would get brain fried. It's almost 200 a day because 2 times 7 is 1,400. So 20 times 200 times 7, sorry, is 1,400. So let me share with you a way using the 5 bullets that are on the scoring page, the prompt page for both English and Spanish students. And I'll be using the hand, and I already pre-drew it to kind of save you a little bit of time. So the first step, you would draw your hand. Vas a dibujar un mano. In the middle, you're going to put a T. Vas a poner un T. The T will stand for the topic. There's going to be a sentence that will be the topic. And for all the English kids, it's going to say explain. Vas a tener un tema, y para casi todos los inglés, vas a empezar con la palabra explicar. Hay una en español que empieza con una pregunta, P. So the thing to understand is, if all your students are doing is restating the prompt, if they're just restating the topic, but they're not actually answering the question with an idea, what we might call a position or postura or opinion in English, opinion in Spanish. When you break apart the O into two parts, I can say I could take this claim or that claim, take that side, and you pick one side or the other. So your students have to look for the word that they're supposed to answer, which question keyword is being asked in the prompt sentence. ¿Cuál pregunta está ahí? So we're going to look for, if you watch me in the corner here, who, what, when, where, why, which, or how. ¿Quién? ¿Qué? ¿Cuándo? What, when? ¿Dónde? ¿Por qué? ¿Cuál? Y cómo. Every single time, your students are either going to see one of those words or a word that means the same as that. Let me go ahead and show you that they have to make sure they look for that word and they respond to that, because the first bullet says, clearly state your central idea, third, fourth, and fifth, controlling idea, and sixth, seventh, and eighth, or your thesis. So if you imagine that's a capital T sitting on a line, or it might say your opinion, or opinión, or posición, or position, or postura. That's the first bullet, and that's how you get your first point. Let me show you in Spanish first what those keywords were. In third grade, you see por qué. I'm not even going to pay attention to the rest. Why? The reasons why something is important. In fourth grade, cuál, which. Fifth grade, cómo, how. And all of the grades in English. In third grade, explain, like I said, is going to start every single one. Why? Fourth grade, why? Fifth grade, how? Sixth grade, how? Seventh grade, how? Some ways humans benefit. So how do humans benefit? Eighth grade, what? New research. Ninth grade, why? Travelers enjoy. And 10th grade, how? And so if your students answer by just restating all of the prompt, except for answering those who, what, when, where, why, which, or how statements, which you can see here are who, which, what, how, who, why, who, which, what, how, who, when, where, por qué, cuál, qué, cómo, quién, cuándo, dónde. Those things have to be answered as part of the central idea statement, the opinion, mi idea principal, mi opinión, mi posición, mi postura, my position, if I'm over here in English, okay? And that gets you to one let. The two says, organize your essay. So organization means there has to be structure. There has to be an introduction, I, a body, B, and a conclusion, C. Introducción, cuerpo, conclusión. And the best place to put your idea about the topic is somewhere in your introduction, so the reader has sort of like a GPS. Dice el segundo punto, organizar. Let me show it to you in Spanish. English is exactly the same. Organizar lo que escribes. So we have to have some sort of organization or structure. So if you have an introduction, if your plan has an introduction, a body and an ending, a conclusion, conclusion with 1, 2, or 3 sentences, then you have a good chance of getting at least the 2 parts. That's why all these 2s are here. Tienes buena chance para un 2, porque tienes organización, organization. Then it says to develop your ideas in detail. So let's say that you have 3 examples of evidence. Well, what you want to do is say, okay, if I use this piece of evidence in some place, I'm going to use one color to explain it. So let me show you visually how that would look. I have my topic, sentence. Tengo mi tema, oración de tema. We have our central idea statement, controlling idea statement, thesis, position, postura, posición, opinión, opinion. And then let's say we have 3 pieces of evidence. Tenemos evidencia. Si vamos a tener evidencia, tenemos que poner EXP, because the 3rd bullet says to develop your ideas in detail. And what that means, because of the first word, is to explain, explicar, EXP. Entonces, por este ejemplo de evidencia, explicar con 1, o tal vez 2, o tal vez 3 oraciones. What does that piece of evidence mean? How does it connect to my idea and the topic? ¿Qué conexión tiene esta evidencia con mi idea y el tema? Tengo que explicar con mis propias palabras. Entonces, si nomás tenemos el tema, es un 0. Pero si tenemos nuestra idea, ya tenemos un 1. Y si organizamos, tenemos un 2. Si ponemos desarrollado, if we develop, we can get a 3. Si usamos 2 ejemplos de evidencia, tenemos que explicar los 2. If we have 2 pieces of evidence, then we should explain them with either EXP 1, 2, 3, 1 sentence, or 2 sentences, or perhaps 3 sentences. And the cool thing is, all of these monkeys look like an S. And it's important that you think of that, because your kids are going to struggle, some of them, with punctuation, and that's where this last E comes in. The editing, editar. The last bullet says to check your paper for capitalization, usage, punctuation, spelling, and your students either get a 0, a 1, or a 2. En editar vamos a tener un 0, o 1, or 2. In English, ending could be conclusion, conclusión, y editar es conventions o convenciones. Podemos tener un 0, 1 o 2. Y con los 3 puntos que podemos recibir en organizado y desarrollado, the 3 points that we can earn on organization and development, plus the 2 points that we can earn on the editing. Could be 5 points from each reader, as long as we do that. But let's say your student does go ahead and give you a third piece of evidence. Well, if that evidence doesn't clearly connect with the other pieces of evidence, you're going to have your students explain. And so I color code. So I say, you know what? Spend 1 or 2 or perhaps 3 sentences explaining your third piece of evidence. For example, in English, when it said, explain how Kim showed determination throughout the story, example from the text, evidence, beginning, middle, end, throughout the story. So you try to find some different pieces of evidence that represent the topic of determination. You decide how she shows it, write that in your sentence, and then give me evidence of your idea that's actually from the text, either with or without quotation marks, and then explain it. But some of you might be saying, well, Bill, my kids are not on that level yet. Well, great. Then you start with 1 sentence, because if your students can at least try to explain 1 piece of evidence with 1 sentence, another piece of evidence with a sentence, and a third piece of evidence with 1 sentence, at least they're making an attempt to develop their ideas in detail. And then, because we have to have closure, not necessarily an indentation, but we have to have some sort of ending, a conclusion, either 1 or 2 or 3 sentences to bring a conclusion, end or ending, conclusion. It's possible that your students could get a 5 by having, if you count with me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, only 8 sentences, because each one is explained. But let's say, oh, my students can't handle 3 pieces of evidence. Well, good. Then have them give you, I'm going to move this one over here for a second. Say, you know what? Find me 1 piece of evidence. Give me your central idea, and give me a piece of evidence in the beginning, middle. Explain it. I'll put it underneath so you can kind of see how they work together. And give me another piece of evidence in the middle end, and explain it with 1 sentence. And then bring closure by either restating or rephrasing your idea that you came up with and how it connects to your topic. Si tienes estudiantes que no pueden explicar bien, no tienen muchas palabras, no necesitas poner 3 ejemplos de evidencia. Pueden usar 2 y nomás explican 2 ejemplos de evidencia con una oración. Y con esto tenemos 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 oraciones. Y tal vez esto es bastante para tener un 2 o 3 en organizado y desayunado, y un 0, 1. Con estos 3, si podemos leer, si no son, if they're not incoherent, indecipherable, or illegible, now when I try to translate those words, they have to be able to understand what your kids wrote. If there's some punctuation, if you say at the end of each one of these sentences that start with a capital, think of the word cup, capital, usage, and punctuation. If we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences, then you might, and the grammar is strong or good at least, it might get 2 points. If the grammar's fair or weak, but it is legible, they could get 1 point. So it could be 2 or 3 points for organization development, and 0, 1 for conventions on the weak side, or 1, 2 on the strong side. So that's how you could do it using a hand in English and Spanish. And as you can see, everything that I'm saying, for those of you who have ordered the training, I sent you a digital copy of this, and some of you that have been coming lately to the trainings, I've been giving you a class set of these to go along with your English, because we have a lot of kids that are learning English that you want them to test in English. So they have to just graduate from Spanish, because in 6th grade or higher, you have to test English. Basically, it's the que es mi idea, por qué usamos, explicar, específico, explotar con voz vocabulary, explore with voice and vocabulary, because it does say on the development bullet that your word choice has vivid word choices that are very precise. And so you want to explode. And the cool thing about explode, if you remember the green, the blue, and the orange, explain, explode, explicar, explotar. So if your kids end up using higher vocabulary as they write, you might reward them and say, okay, well, you had 2 sentences explaining your first piece of evidence, but you use some higher vocabulary, or maybe you use some voice. You really put some thought into thinking outside the box. I'm going to give you extra credit for those 2 sentences. Si nomás tienen 2 oraciones, dos oraciones para explicar este pedazo de evidencia, pero usas voz o vocabulario, cuando pones un B y un B juntos, dice W. When you put 2 V's together, voice and vocabulary, you get a W for words. So whenever your words that you're using are either higher vocabulary or explaining the voice of the character, his thoughts and opinions that are in his head, his feelings and emotions that are in his heart, you have a better chance of explaining fully, because the paper is effective. And so the difference between a 2 and a 3 in organization development, it says that the introduction and conclusion are just present in order to get a 2, and they're effective in order to get a 3. So you might teach your students to try and have more than just basic restating and repeating in your opening and your closing. Si la introducción y conclusión están ahí, pero no están efectivos, pueden recibir un 2, pero es tan efectivo, pueden ser efectivo, pueden recibir un 3 si las 2 partes tienen palabras con voz o vocabulario más alto. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is a star, where, as a reminder in English, how do you get to the 5 points on a star test for an essay? You have a topic, a tema. You've got to look for the question: who, what, when, where, why, which, or how. ¿Por qué, cuál, qué, cómo, quién, cuándo, dónde? One of those has to be answered as they're clearly stating their central idea, el idea central, idea principal, the posición, controlling idea, the thesis, postura, opinión, opinion, claim. To get a 2, you have to organize. They have to see what looks like an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. The yellow inside the 2 B's, it changes from green to blue. Well, maybe I have 2 pieces of evidence that I'm going to develop D. I'm going to develop D, the other one. The same concept applies to green and blue. Introducción, cuerpo. I get a 2 if I can have organization, structure. I can get a 3 if each evidence example is explained and exploded. Explicar, evidencia, explicar, explotar. Es un 3 por cada una. Y los últimos puntos son de editar un cerro. Si está mal, 1 o 2 puntos por editar. Si mupo está allí, mayúscula, minúscula, uso, puntuación, oración, ortografía, oración y oraciones. Let me show you that right here. Mayúscula, minúscula, uso, puntuación, ortografía, oración, oraciones. That refers to run-ons and fragments, textos corridos y fragmentos. We try to fix all of those things before we turn it in. And in English, our cups, our editing would be capitalization, usage, punctuation, spelling, sentences, sentence, or sentences for run-ons and for fragments. And so that's basically how to use the star to get the 5 points, to use your hand to break down each part. So there you go. I had been promising to put a plan for dual language. For those of you who have kids who are only testing in Spanish, they can use one side. I also have a Spanish only folder that has more in-depth. It's for more advanced students, but I think this is advanced enough to show you your kids in elementary at least how to get from 0 land to 1, 2, or 3 land, and then throughout the year improve their convention so they can get to 4 land and 5 land. God bless you guys. Please share and tag somebody with this video.